Hey, what's up there, guys? Welcome to the first video here on my esports channel. This is going to be just talking about different esports, doing some different news reportings, talking about upcoming games and whether or not they will shine in a competitive scene and different things like that. We're also going to be talking about the state of some esports that I'm very, very passionate about. Things like the Call of Duty League, as well as I'm going to try and do some more stuff on the Overwatch Championship Series. And then when X Defiant comes out, or even leading up to X Defiance release, I will have some videos and stuff up on that as well. I'll probably not be able to cover X Defiant though until we get on to release. My goal with this channel is to be doing probably about one video a month, depending on the major events and everything happening surrounding the esports scene. So if you guys are enjoying, make sure you guys like, leave a comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. But now with that, we can get into today's video. I know there's been a lot of CDL tier lists, but we are going to be jumping into this one. These icons are a little outdated. I didn't have the time to be able to build my own. I think the only icon actually that really doesn't make sense is this one. I think this one might be still for London, but we're just gonna treat it as Carolina for Major 3. So we have Toronto Major 3 coming up. This is kind of a weird state that the CDL is in. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, the CDL in its current state is kind of hot trash. And I love COD. I've really been enjoying COD since like the end of Modern Warfare 2, which sucks because I kind of got into it a little bit late and missed apparently a lot of the glory days. But it's been fun, and I'm really hoping that whatever the next Call of Duty game that comes out will maybe hopefully be able to revive it. So we're going to be talking about the different teams, talking about their performances throughout this last stage, and kind of see where they are all going to be ranking going into Major 3, which will kind of also give out some predictions. I don't want to do like a whole prediction thing because that's just going to be a really long video, and I think the tier list here will kind of help to break everything down. So going right into it, we've got Atlanta FaZe. I mean, there's no question about it. They're an S-tier team. When you look at their stats and everything, I don't think they lost a map in this stage. Like, looking at everything, specifically Atlanta FaZe, I don't even think they lost a map. Oh no, they did lose a map. But I mean, either way, they are completely, just absolutely unstoppable right now. They only lost 4 maps throughout this stage. And the only teams that they lost a map to were Optic, New York, Carolina, and Seattle. Carolina and Seattle being two teams that are on kind of like this weird upswing. So I definitely am not too surprised by this. I mean, Atlanta, they're just completely and totally unstoppable right now. Personally, I don't see any team that can beat them in Major 3. I think they are easily an undisputed winner of the event. I mean, you can even see right now all their KDs: Celium at a 1.2, Draza at a 1.08, Simp at 1.16, and Abizi at 1.05. They're just absolutely unstoppable. They're playing extraordinarily well. Even their SND KDs, the only one who currently is red is Draza. So, like, these guys are just they're just unstoppable. It's hard to really find a lot of flaws in their gameplay right now. So they're definitely going to be pretty handily winning Major 3 here coming up. Next up, we've got Boston Breach. I don't even need to speak about it. I feel like Pat Price says it enough. Looking at this Boston team, I mean, with all of the players that they have had across their roster, the only ones that are performing well are Snoopy and Beans, and even Snoopy's not necessarily been the greatest. Um, Personally, from what I've seen, I am not on the build around Snoopy scene. I think if they want to build around Snoopy, it's going to be taking way too long to get Snoopy to where he wants to be, especially if they keep shuffling around so many of the different players. Because one of the things that helps a team get built is by helps a player develop is by having solid mentors. And if Snoopy's going to be playing with new players pretty much every single event, he's not going to be able to develop in the way that they need him to. And so I think they need to Patrick Price says it best. They need to blow it up everywhere. I don't understand what goes on in that camp. Yeah, I'm not expecting much from this team at all. So they're an easy bottom of the tier list. Next up, we have Carolina. Carolina Royal Ravens. They're in a weird team. Oh my goodness, they only have Gwyn, who is positive right now. That kind of blows my mind, honestly. Looking at their matches and who they played strong. They beat New York. That's kind of their big win that would really put them anywhere, but they lost 3-2 to LA Thieves, and they lost 3-1 to Atlanta and Toronto, both two teams that you kind of would expect them to be losing to, but then they lost to Seattle. That one did go into a game 5. So that one, that one's interesting. I think there's a lot. This team tends to play better on LAN. Granted, in Major 2, they lost 0-3 to New York. So, I don't know. I think this team's kind of a wild card. I can't really rank them very high. I think I have to put Carolina at probably like a high C tier, maybe a low B tier. Mainly because their whole success rate depends on Gwyn, and that is just not a formula for winning an entire event. If it was as simple as, if they had better players just kind of overall, Tej is really good. Tej definitely, I think, is getting held back a lot more by some of the other players. But if Tej and Clay could really be able to pick it up, then I think that would really help this team succeed. Because right now, with the path that they're on, they're not going to be... I don't expect them to go very high, especially looking at the upcoming matches. They start off playing Optic, so they're as happy as it is that they are taking a start in the winners bracket. I don't think they're not going to be sticking in the winners bracket long. They would need a crazy upset to be able to beat Optic. And Optic, they're really strong right now. So I expect Carolina to be jumped down pretty quickly down to the losers bracket, and they will have to make some sort of a losers bracket run. But depending on the teams that they go up against, it could be interesting. Up next, we have the Las Vegas Legion. I'm torn with this team because I love Vegas. I love them as a team. I have been a huge fan of Attach for a long time. And oh my goodness, ASIM with the .69. I don't know. I think they made a good choice in getting rid of Purge, but obviously right now it's hard. Obviously ASIM was not the right pick. I don't know about Ojani yet. I think he seemed to slay pretty well in some of their previous matches. I don't know if I can figure out stats right. Sorry, I'm learning a lot about navigating things. See this match here, Boston versus Vegas. See how Johnny in his debut, 0.93 KD, which isn't terrible, but we obviously had an attached masterclass. Another game that really does not need to be going to game 5. Anyways, Vegas, they're so back and forth. I don't know. I don't know if Ojani is the answer that they need. They seem to be looking better this week than they did in previous weeks. A lot of throughout this stage, they were not looking good. So it's hard for me to rate them. It's hard for me to put them on a tier list because if Ojani is a good pick and he does what he needs to do, then I really think he can help to turn this squad around. If he's not if he's not the right pick, then they might be chalked. So I'm going to be rating Vegas at a low B tier. That's kind of where they're going to be going. Yeah, they're on the lower end of B tier. And I think that's just kind of where we're going to keep them. Up next, we have the Los Angeles Gorillas. Seems weird. This team has not been great. If we look at the Major 3 qualifiers, they only won 2 matches. Who did they win against? They won 2 matches, and it was against Boston and Minnesota. The rest of the teams, they lost pretty handily, too. They played really well on LAN in Major 2, taking top 6. But top 6 on LAN is not crazy. And then going into Major 2, the only team that they were able to beat was FaZe. Obviously, they beat FaZe, which is something, but going into a LAN, I can't just take these guys seriously. They have an opportunity, I think, to kind of show up, but they weren't able to beat Miami at all. So and they went to a game 5 against Boston, which realistically teams should not be doing right now. So I'm gonna have to rate them lower than Carolina on C tier. Yeah, they're definitely lower than Carolina on the C tier. I think they either have a lot of work to do. Flames just has not been enough for the squad. I would love to be able to say that he was, but he's not, and they need something more. Going up next, we have the Los Angeles Thieves. I don't know if people will agree with me on this one. I don't care if they agree with me on this one. I am just going to say it. LA Thieves, they are an A-tier team right now. Yeah, Ghosty is the only one with a 1.0, but if you look at their matches, I mean, they were, well, maybe they're not an A-tier team. I don't know, because looking at these matches and who they played against and their stats, they're not great. Ghosty is easily the best player on this team. I think they have an interesting setup going into the major, going up against New York, because New York have not been looking good right now. And so I think they have a possibility for an upset. I'm definitely rating them higher than Vegas. So they're going to be sitting at a high B tier. High B tier for sure, with the possibility if they are able to upset New York, they could definitely make an argument for top 4. I personally would love to see that. I think New York has really kind of fallen off. But either way, LA Thieves, they're looking pretty decent going into the major, but they did have a very easy schedule. So this one is all going to be coming down to if their schedule was actually an easy schedule, or if they've actually made the necessary improvements in order to place well. Up next, you have Miami Heretics. They're better than Boston. That doesn't say much. Um, like looking at this major, they're 3-4, so I think they did get a winners bracket, but they're going up against FaZe, so not really a winners bracket run. The only players that have been doing well on their team are Lucky and Real. There's not too much to be able to say against them. The teams they were able to beat were Seattle, Boston, and LAG. So that secures them a winners bracket, which I think is ridiculous. The CDL is so chalked. But any other team, we're beating them pretty handily. The only team that went to Game 5 was LA Thieves, which I'm pretty sure that one should not have gone to a Game 5. So yeah, there's not a lot of hope for this Heretics squad. Up next, we have the Minnesota Rocker. Which apparently is broken. Apparently, Minnesota Rocker does not have a working page. Either way, so I guess it means we don't get to use stats, but either way, Minnesota, they're not performing great. They're not doing well. They're starting in the losers bracket. No surprise, they only managed to win 2 games. And so I definitely think, let's see, if we look at the teams that they played, they lost to Carolina. They lost to Toronto. They beat LA Thieves in a game 5. They got 3-0'd by LAG, and they won 3-2 to Boston. So they're not looking great. Their win against LA Thieves helps them out a lot, but it doesn't save them. I think it saves them from D tier. So I gotta put them low C tier. Waiting, and Standing and Ghosty or Gunless, yeah. Standing and Gunless were not the best. Well, one of them was good, the other was not. Obviously, getting rid of Big Wake was a good choice. Awakening not doing what he needed to do. But I don't know. They need somebody who is able to help Linz do what he needs to do. Because right now, Linz and Accuracy are pretty handily their best players. So it is something where I definitely think that Minnesota might have an opportunity, but they need to pick up the pace and not fall apart when it matters. And Linz just need to be able to help Linz make plays on the map. And in stage 1, Linz was making plays and Minnesota did great. But since then, it just has not been working out for them. Next up, we have the New York Subliners. They have fallen off a lot in this stage. Kismet, unfortunately, not performing the way that he needs to. Sib has not been doing as well as he needs to either. I feel like Sib has been a bit of a struggle point for this squad. And looking at the teams that they beat, it was only Vegas, Miami, and Minnesota, all teams that just did not have the best stages. But like they lost to Seattle, they lost to Carolina. So it's hard for me to rate them really high. I don't even think I can safely call them a B tier team at this point. Or an A tier team, because just with this stage they did not do what needed to be done. I don't expect them to, if they have been continuing on the train that they have been, I don't expect them to have a very strong Major 3. So I'm going to actually be rating right now. I'm rating them lower than LA Thieves. Um, I know that they they didn't play Thieves in this stage. But I think that if Thieves were to play them with the form that they were looking like versus the form that New York was looking, I think that one could have pretty easily gone to LA Thieves. I know that that's the first matchup in Major 2, so I think that one is probably going to go all the way to Game 5, and it could go either way. Um, I think LA Thieves will win it out, but we won't know obviously until we get there. Optic Texas, they're A tier. I mean, there's not too much to say about them that hasn't really been said already by many other people. They are a very, very strong team. Uh, they made it all the way to grand finals in Major 2. They're playing up against Carolina. It's going to be pretty easy. The only team that they lost to in this stage was Atlanta FaZe, which right now I don't expect this Optic squad to be able to beat FaZe. So Optic, they're sitting pretty comfortably A tier. Shotzi is a superstar, and he's got a 1.03 KD. Pred has really stepped it up, I feel, from this last stage. He definitely is looking much, much stronger than he was in previous stages. The 1.1 KD has just come in huge for them. I'd love to be able to see Optic maybe pull out a win against FaZe. I don't expect it. FaZe just looks. I can't find a hole in FaZe's gameplay, so it'll be interesting to see kind of how they will all be playing. Like Optic, you can see a few holes in their respawn and in their S&D. Shotzi, despite having a .98, I still think is one of the stronger players on Optic. He's just been playing very, very well. He's been an absolute menace on the map. Even if he's not necessarily frying, everybody has to figure out what he's doing, because if they don't know what he's doing, then he's just free to kind of move around however he wants. So, yeah, Optic, they're pretty comfortable A tier. Now we move on to Seattle. Seattle Surge, they're looking better than they were before. I mean, oh my gosh, none of them. They have a red carpet going into this major. They're not beating Toronto. I know they had a 3-1 win against New York, but they lost to Miami. They lost to LA Thieves. They are looking better than they have before. A lot of people have been ripping on them very strongly. So they're looking better, but I don't think it's enough. I think right now they're looking better than Vegas have been looking, but I can't even think about putting them in the same vein as New York. So they're going to be sitting in a B tier right now, which is kind of wild to say, because at any other major, I definitely would not have expected them to be as strong as that. But their win against New York, I think, shows that they at least have a potential to do something. They're starting their first match is against Toronto. They're not winning that one, so they're gonna have to make some sort of a losers bracket run, which will be interesting. I'm excited to see what this team is going to be able to pull out going into the major here. And then finally, we've got Toronto Ultra. Toronto, they've been playing really strongly. There aren't a lot of areas where you can really like roast Toronto. The only player that has really been their weak point has been Envoy in this split, and I mean, either way, they were looking really strong. The only team that they lost to was Atlanta. So I don't see them beating Atlanta again, which I'm not going to beat that dead horse. But other than that, they're looking really, really strong. I think when it really is going to come down to is whether or not they're going to be facing Optic. If they face Optic at all during the next major, then that could definitely show that could be an interesting matchup. I mean, like right now, I should have the here's the bracket. So yeah, we'll probably be seeing Toronto face Optic in winners round 2, which I think will be that'll be a really good matchup. I don't expect any crazy upsets between Toronto and Seattle and Optic and Carolina. But I'm excited to see Toronto and Optic play against each other. I think that'll be a really good matchup. Obviously, one of them is going to have to go down to the losers bracket at some point. My prediction personally is that it would be Toronto that would go down to the losers bracket. I think Optic just looks a little bit stronger than Toronto. They did have a bit of a weaker split. But again, that could very easily change. I know they're kind of on their upward trend as well. So it could go either way, but easily Toronto's still, they're still an A-tier team. Not as strong as Optic, but I think they're looking really, really good going into this next major. So this is it. This is the CDL tier list that I have put together here going into Major 3 in Toronto. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is a debut for my new esports channel that'll just be primarily YouTube-only content. I don't know if I'll be doing any streams on there. If I do, I'll be streaming on YouTube, not on my Twitch, because my Twitch I want to keep specifically for Lord of the Rings content and such. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you guys like and subscribe if you want more of this kind of content in the future. And I will see you guys next time. I don't know what I will be doing for my next video, but either way, stay tuned. Make sure you guys subscribe, hit that bell so you can be notified the next time I post a video. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you later.